What was it that drew you to Austin? I mean, I've been to Austin. I love Austin. I love the people it attracts. There's all the bumper stickers that say "Keep Austin Weird," and that weird that they're talking about in my interpretation is, it draws people who are typically more awake, more conscious, more spiritual, not necessarily following just the usual societal norms. And so, what was it about Austin that drew you to it? I think you said in a text that you wanted to be around more like-minded people. Can you tell me more about that?
I would say that, I've lived on four different continents and I've moved around quite a bit even within the United States. And in hindsight, I believe that I was often led to a particular location because that is meant to be the classroom for the Earth School for me for a particular lesson. There are different field schools and classrooms for me. Um, and I've been looking into astrocartography, basically looking at how your location changes your expression of who you came here to be. Um, a very small move going from Bryan to Austin, just a couple hours, has totally changed my life in many ways. So when I was in College Station, Bryan, there was this really heavy Saturn kind of energy. So I worked really hard and had a lot of Saturn lessons. Um, and and Austin is a Mercury kind of energy. Um, and and I just went to my Chiron return. So a lot of my healing gifts were activated. Of course, that activation took place over time. But there were some pretty traumatic events, traumatic at the time when they took place. But every time there's a loss, I always consider that an upgrade. Because a loss means that whatever you were doing, whatever you were hanging on to, no longer match your frequency of vibration. So whenever you have an upgrade in your frequency of vibration, whatever is the outer reflection of who you are or what you're vibrating with kind of falls apart. And then the new external expression of who you are then materializes, just as a natural result of a shift and upgrade in your essence, in your frequency vibration. So I went through a stage where I really needed the Saturn lessons, and I will consider that part of my metamorphosis, as I was trying to break through in many ways out of this cocoon. I would say that my life in College Station and Bryan was kind of like being in that cocoon, very isolated. By that isolation, um, really facilitated a total disintegration of who I was before, but with all the nutrients that were decomposed from all the lessons learned, uh, kind of this new essence being reshaped into new forms. I mean, it's actually very exciting as I'm looking back, because without the challenges, without the isolation, I wouldn't have been able to sort of crystallize a new being from sort of a consummation of all the life experiences, or I would say the Earth School lessons that I had taken. Um, so I almost feel like I'm doing like a PhD dissertation now, even though I had done a real PhD dissertation, 10 years ago and became a professor at many schools. I feel like spiritually, I am currently doing my PhD dissertation. And Austin happens to be where my dissertation has the most impact. I didn't know that I had the healing gifts even though I suspected it, but Austin gave me a platform where I have been able to, help a lot of people heal miraculously, and I give all the credits to the Holy Spirit. I'm not the one doing it. I'm just simply an instrument. Um, but the transition from being a professor into a massage therapist is very drastic. And it turned out that the whole career of being a professor has been packed with struggles, although I have reached, I would say, the end of that pathway to divinity. Um, because I kept pushing myself to take on different kinds of projects, to teach my students to design different kinds of projects, and the project just got more and more out there to a point where my dean felt like it was too ethereal. Or I started to design for the space stations on Mars, on Moon. So it was way too far out there, ahead of our time. But I felt like I have upgraded every single project towards the end of the envelope that I can possibly push in that profession. In the profession of urban design and landscape architecture, I felt like there was no more project that's going to be worth my time. And I have, basically given everything I could possibly given as an instrument from the divine to really push the envelope in shaping a better future for humanity through integrating what needs to be integrated into a city. So a lot of my work was in disaster mitigation and adaptation through integrating water back into the cities. But then, that was being applied to designing spiritual communities and space habitats and like very extreme kind of projects. And I think somehow I lost all my desire. Like I had no more desire to take on another project because I felt like I have taken on the last project that you can possibly do to push the envelope. Um, so so whenever I felt like that's the end of that particular pathway of contribution I can possibly make, um, I often get people and events and just things that will come and somehow give me very clear direction. So in this particular case, my massage therapist just asked me, if I'm going to be interested in becoming a therapist like her, because, I come to her so often, and she said there's a school that just got open right next door. So then I went to check it out, and it turned out that was their last day of registration for a class coming up the next week. And then I walked in, there's a sign that says hope right there. So there's just like, and then after that, I think I miraculously healed my teachers, with hip fracture or scoliosis, just, as a student who really didn't know what I was doing. And then ever since I moved here, like everybody got miraculous healing, and they've been working with PTs and chiros and couldn't get results. And I frankly gave all the credits to the Holy Spirit, but I feel like I'm currently pushing the envelope towards that direction and feeling like the end is coming. Like my next step is to pursue large scale energy healing.
When you say
To
the,
be,
when you say the end is coming, what do you mean?
so basically, I have developed an approach, techniques that I innovated and received from the source directly, and I have been able to help people with really traumatic car accidents, concussions and sports injuries and all that.
Yeah.
And I just recently made some videos to offer online courses, and I'm, I got licensed as an instructor in massage therapy, hoping to offer retreats and workshops to share the approach, because I've done it for thousands of people and it worked for everyone. Um, after they failed to get results from other affiliated professionals. So I feel like that was the end. That was the end of that pathway of contributions. Similar to landscape architecture, I feel like I pushed the envelope enough to really receive the divine intervention to manifest that into a facet of heaven on earth. But there's so much more to do to like really bring heaven on earth, to be a conscious co-creator
Mm.
of heaven on earth. It's there's a lot of work to be done. Um, so I was just getting a little bit impatient at the speed of healing my clients. So basically, I spent an hour or longer with one client. Yes, they had a life transforming experience, but I'm now looking to heal millions and billions of people with a lot less time. And I, I am really um, just in love with the idea of being able to bring heaven on earth at a massive scale.
Mm.
And that is very much, I would say, a result of all the massage therapy sessions I've had that made me understand that it was the energy through the Holy Spirit that healed my clients.
I love the distinction about becoming an open vessel to let endless source move through you rather than it's coming from your own personal energy. What does heaven on earth mean to you? By the way, I've always really admired just how quickly you can make transitions and you have a good idea and you just go with it. I've always really admired that about you, of the courage and also your ability to transition relatively with ease. I just notice it's in contrast to mine, where I'm really good at staying put and being really earthy and grounded. And I notice that transitions are more challenging for me. So I always admired your ability to change so quickly. And in that vein, bringing heaven on earth, what does that mean to you? What does that look like?
Um, so beyond the massive scale type of energy healing, I am seeing the need to create a network of conscious co-creators of heaven on earth, the need to help activate the gifts of millions and billions of people that are basically part of the universe experiencing itself. So I think uh, that is what motivates me to also now transition into life coaching, delivering a lot of what I'm doing online, because I think cultivating a global network of conscious co-creators of heaven on earth can really multiply uh, what needs to be done. And I do think that there's conduit of heaven on earth. Every single light worker is a conduit of heaven on earth. And I think they're all strategically placed, evenly distributed like a grid of light on earth. If there's a way to somehow use the online platform to help support each other, to help share uh, tips of success and to help facilitate any synergies, I think it'll be like the fire of the Holy Spirit. It'll spread out very fast to instigate a revival of divine life on earth. Heaven on earth to me is as above, so below. To see the beauty and unity and harmony in all aspects of earthly life
Mm.
and the kinds of love and abundance and freedom that are essential qualities of the source. To be able to see that at multiple scales of magnification, it can be, at the personal level, can be at the family level, at the community level, at a national level, or at the global scale. So I would describe that as the complex adaptive system. And that is one of the concepts that I was exploring as a professor. How do we design communities that are going to be self-sufficient, that are going to be adaptive and resilient to disruptive event, to not have to depend upon external sources for survival, to be able to somehow tap into the free abundance, to get out of the survival mode. And that ties back to the metamorphosis of going from a caterpillar that was based on fear, scarcity, and control into a butterfly that is based on love, abundance, and freedom. So I think that transformation at the personal level, community level, and the global scale is, I would say, operational definition of bringing heaven. And I think it comes back to using performing arts as a pathway to the highest self. And this is something that I think is very helpful in terms of helping people embody their best highest self. So the
Mm.
process of embodying is not very different from acting. So when you know that you are the universe experiencing itself, and everybody is part of that universe experiencing itself, and the point of departure of that, why would the source want to then experience itself? It's basically for the sake of play. It's basically for the sake of evolving through play, evolving through having interactions, having different scripts that you can play out. And through the play, through this Dharmic theater, you learn about your Dharma, you learn about lessons that will help facilitate the evolution of consciousness. So I think the difference between me all of a sudden becoming a totally different person within a couple of years and the me from 20 years ago that was doing the same thing over and over is simply that at this moment, I am this person that I've directed me to become. And I truly embody that as an actress, but I also wholeheartedly become that. And I think that the critical aspect is that you have a director, you have an actor or actress, you have the audience. And I think the beauty of this process, the Dharmic theater process, is that I witness myself embodying this character.
Yeah.
And I compare this show, this play, with the play that I got involved in 20 years ago.
Mm.
And, so I'm the audience of all the different plays that, that I have been involved in. And,
Yeah.
and that's the whole point of coming down here, reincarnating. Otherwise, it's too boring meditating in a cave alone as the universe. You're the only person that has a burst. So I think when I approach life from the perspective of this Dharmic theater, I don't really take it too seriously. And I think when you don't take it too seriously, you're not afraid to play with it, and think that, oh, it's just a rehearsal for life, but hey, it becomes my life. Um, and if I don't like it, I feel like, well, I played this thing 10 times now, ready to move on. Like even I'm getting bored playing the same character. So I'm going to try a different character. But I think the selection of the character is very, very deliberate. And that comes back to knowing the curriculum of the Earth School. So I became, very involved in studying my own natal chart. And I almost use it as a way of understanding the wisdom I need to have to be able to ascend and manifest, ascend to get a specific types of higher consciousness down to manifest a particular aspect of heaven on earth. So when you take this indivisible oneness, somehow we're in a 3D, you can say 5D reality. Somehow it needs to be operationalized because there's time and space and there's multiple dimensions. I think throughout this process, I've encountered Mother Mary, Jesus many times, and Jesus became progressively more tangible. Like initially, I could only see his face. Then I could see his body like across a table from me, and then I could feel his embrace. And then I met him for 3 days. So I believe that there's ascended masters like Mother Mary and Jesus and Buddha, and they're all out there. So the second coming to me is actually the same as the way Jesus ascended. It's about us following his footstep to ascend to his frequency of vibration. So the closer we are to him, the more tangible he becomes. So I think that's what's really magical about this whole process. Um, and and when you consider that a play, how there's multiple dimensions of the universe manifested in the world of matter, but as well as within you, the multiple reincarnations that you've had, and how there are just all the different possibilities that you can pull from uh, to really have a play that helps you grow um, spiritually.
Beautiful. Such a pleasure just getting to hear you talk about your process, how you integrate what you're creating, how you let Holy Spirit move through you, different ways that you see bringing heaven on earth, following intuition. It's really inspiring just to hear and see how you move through life.
Thank you. And I think this process also helped me get beyond trauma, get beyond frustration, challenges very quickly. Uh, because I know that at any point, if that's not giving me joy, that's not giving me love, I can always change the script. And loss sometimes is an upgrade. Losing something because it's no longer matching my frequency of vibration. So it's actually worth celebrating.
Yeah. I don't know if I have any more questions. That was really, really good.
Yeah, I'm glad that we got to connect.
Yeah, me too.
Yay. I think College Station and Brian were the first place where I developed place attachment. And it's interesting that my dissertation has something to do with place attachment. It's like it was the first place that I ever felt attached to because I moved around a lot.
Yeah.
Um, and it's interesting that astrocartography shows that, somehow this is a place where I get to embody the Holy Spirit. I had a lot of really potent experiences with the Holy Spirit. I think I've only like cried out of no reason, maybe 4 times in my life. And every single time that happened, it has something to do with the Holy Spirit.
Mm.
Whether it's the Holy Spirit being expressed through deliverance music, or it's me experiencing the Holy Spirit, seeing somebody getting delivered, so it's always kind of coming back to that. Um, and and one time I even just stopped in the middle of the street. I could not move. I could not drive. So my car was just sitting there. The moment the piece of music came on, I was possessed. I could not move. And it just helped me become more clear about my point of departure. What's gonna move me towards higher consciousness, and to be able to just embody that, knowing that that was the fastest route, the most impactful way of making a contribution. Um, and it's not at all who I was. I was an atheist before my near-death experience. So it's an interesting journey.
Yeah, beautiful. So sweet connecting with you. Thank you for making the time,
Same
and
here.
I'm glad we finally were able to synchronize our calendars. Sorry for all the
Yes,
challenges there, but it's been really, really sweet connecting with you. Nice to see
same
you.
here. Same here. All right. Take care.
Thank you, you too. And I'd love to
All
hear
right.
more about what unfolds for you in Austin and this continual practice of bringing heaven on earth.